Welcome to Concept Being the podcast, where the intention is well, but let's be for real. Life gets a little chaotic, and so do we. And that's totally fine. It's fine. You're fine. I'm fine. We're literally fine. And we're all about finding the balance while staying honest with health, wellness, and all the juicy topics that matter. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Concept Being the podcast, where the intention is well. My name is Jade, and I'll be your host for today's episode. And today's episode is about the concept of community. And I'm so excited because today we're joined by Tai Scott, who's an entrepreneur, creator, and the founder of The Fulfilled Her, a supportive community for women focused on growth, mindset shifts, and identity transformation. She's here to share her journey with us and the power of community and wellness and how she's helping women step into their fullest potential. Welcome, Tai. Oh,
Thank you. That intro, I really like that intro.
Because that's you, babe. So I'm so excited that you're here. I'm so excited for our chat.
Me too.
Should we kick it off with a moment? Do you want to go first since you're the guest?
Yeah, sure. I'll go first.
Okay, which one will you be sharing with us?
So it's going to be a moment of gratitude with a splash of perspective. Where I am right now in regards of like my path, like with entrepreneurship, is not where I thought I was going to be. Like I thought I was going to have my candle business, self-care, bath soaks, natural ingredients, all of that. And last year, actually towards the end of 2023, beginning of 2024, I had made the decision like I don't want to do this anymore. And I did keep going solely based off the fact of like, well, I don't want to give it up because I've been working on it this hard. And if I give it up, I'm gonna feel like a failure. So I kept it going for a little bit longer after that, even though I made the executive decision in my head, like, this isn't what I want. But I'm thankful that I did go ahead and let it go because one, I was able to build back up the energy that I depleted myself of trying to keep it going. And then two, I was able to discover what I really, really want to be doing. And don't get me wrong, I love self-care. I love the natural candles. I love holistic wellness, all of that. But I also enjoy helping people see different ways of doing things. I love talking about manifesting. I love talking about neuroscience. Like I love talking about identity shifting, and I love being able to help people on that journey. So I'm like, I need to move towards a more service-based, coaching-based realm. It was like, if it wasn't for that quote unquote failure of a business, I wouldn't have been here working on The Fulfilled Her. So I'm grateful for that. And I've gathered so much knowledge about business from doing that now it's just like, okay, I'm fine tuning everything.
One of my friends told me this. The same thing kind of happened to me as well, where I had a brand and then I was like, this isn't working. I don't want to do this anymore. Mm-hmm. And her advice to me was bad bitches pivot. And to me, I feel like I feel like you're a bad bitch and you pivot. Like that's it. That's all that happened there. So I love that. Yes. And it's a learning lesson, I think, to learn like it's okay to pivot. Like sometimes we get stuck in something and we think that we have to stick with it, but it, like the way that you said, it does kind of deplete you a little bit when you're not doing something that feeds your heart. So I love that you were able to recognize that. And thank you for sharing your moment with us because that was really beautiful.
Absolutely. What's your moment?
I'm going to share a wellness moment. So I have been taking it's a combination yoga teacher training, but it's focused on tantric yoga. It's trauma informed. It's sensual. So I have been taking this training for about a month now. And today was the day that we did tantric yoga. And I was really excited about it. That's kind of the reason why I took the training. And so we did tantric yoga today, and it was intense. I didn't think that it was going to ignite what it did inside of me, but it did, and it really deeply spoke to me. And that was my wellness moment, doing tantric yoga this morning at like 8 a.m. So I feel great.
When you say it like invoked? Is it like, was it like a release type of feeling, or was it like a, oh, I didn't know I could experience this type of feeling?
It was, I would say it was both for me. So I
Mm,
did end up at the very end, I did end up crying, and I wasn't
mm,
expecting that at all. I just felt so many things. And so when I was doing the practice. At first, I didn't feel anything. And I was kind of nervous because that was the thing that I was so excited to do. I was so excited to do tantric yoga. And then I got in my head and I thought to myself, what if it doesn't work? And what if I've been taking this training and it doesn't hit me like the way that I want it to? And so we're going through the breath work and we're like using our vocal cords, which, as you know, for me is something that I've been working on.
mm.
And so we're breathing through everything. And then I started to feel like tingling in my fingertips. And I was so focused on not feeling anything that as soon as I started to feel something, I was so excited. And then I
Mm.
started to breathe through that feeling of feeling the tingling in my fingertips. And it started to move throughout my entire hand. And it just made me feel so happy. This sounds really weird, but to feel something, I was
No, that I understand completely. I get
yeah.
you.
So that was really exciting for me. And I just kept breathing and we danced. We did intuitive dancing
Mm,
and there was a lot of hip movement and it was just a really big release. And then at the end, we slowed things down and we started to focus on just loving our body. And then that kind of made me just start crying, where I just felt all of the feelings and I felt really powerful. And it was a really great experience for me. So that was my
I love
wellness
that.
moment, was doing tantric yoga, and I'm excited to continue on the training and yeah, share with everyone everything that I learned
Yeah,
once
you
I'm
gotta keep
done.
us
So
updated with that. I love
yeah,
that though, especially during this time where it's like we there's so many things in place to keep us disconnected from our bodies and keep us in our minds or outside of our whole body in general. So it's like to have a practice like that is powerful. You building back up that connection. I love that.
thank
Love
you.
it. I
I'm
love it.
super excited. I'm
I'm
excited.
jealous, just a little bit. I'm jealous
Girl, listen, the way that as soon
because
as
it
I'm
sounds
ready to teach
transform.
this training, like I think that this might be like a, can I practice on you really fast? Like
Yes,
maybe.
yes, I'm here for it.
Okay, I love that. Okay, let us start talking about you. Let's start talking about the filter. So tell me, what was the inspo? Give us the whole backstory. Don't leave any details out.
Whew, okay. Firstly, I'm one of those people who have a love for like personal development and like accountability groups. Like if I call my friend and I'm like, "Hey girl, okay, I want to start working out 3 times a week. I want you to hold me accountable." Like you need to hold me accountable. Like I'm not the person that's like, no, don't, no, I don't, no. Tell me. You said you were gonna do da 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 da. How can I, help? And I love being that for other people. So I've had a couple of accountability groups in the past with just my group of friends and in person. So that based off of like my love of psychology, I have my degree in psychology until I found out like I would have to go to school again in order to have like my own independent practice. I said no, I'm not doing that. So
That's fair.
yeah, I was like, no, there's has to be another way. I just got to do my own thing. But love of psychology, of love of just like figuring things out, figuring out problems, and then also knowing. I don't know if you ever heard this saying like, if you teach a man if you educate a man, you educate an individual, but if you educate a woman, you educate the nation.
Yes,
Something
yeah.
like that. I believe that applies to all things, not just education. So, I knew I wanted to work with women specifically because of that. Kind of going down the line more, I was like, all right, I'm online and I'm seeing all this self-help stuff. I'm hearing people saying I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, I want to manifest this, and da 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 da. And they're not I don't want to say not successful at it, but like they're encountering problems. And like I noticed the problem was over consuming the information. So like now you have all this knowledge, but you don't know what to do with it. So I was thinking like, okay, I have a history of accountability groups, so I kind of know the mechanics of that. You give me a problem, I guarantee you give me enough time, we can map out a way to do it. Why not just create an actual group and make it virtual so you can have more people in it that are aligned with it, because it is a little bit different than your typical accountability group. So it came from that. It just came from the fact of, I'm like, okay, we got the knowledge. We keep talking about it. Now we just need to take action. So let's get a group together where we're encouraging each other to take that action.
We're about that action over here. So tell me, what happens during the accountability group? Like, what's at the essence? Are you guys meeting every week and you guys check in? How does it go? What does the flow look like?
So there's a couple of things in place. So we have weekly check-ins, which they're like, about, but there's science behind it and it's necessary. And I try to tell them, like, this, I know you may not want to do it every week, but it's important. So the weekly check-ins are essentially them talking about the goals that they worked on from the previous week, the milestones that they had, if they felt like they accomplished that goal, and if they didn't, talk about that. And then moving forward, what do you plan on doing? So it's a mixture of what did you do, and then also reflecting on what you did and how you could do better if you didn't get the results that you want. And then we have bi-weekly meetings where we meet on Discord, and they're about an hour long. We talk about the successes. We have a section called like hot seat, where it's like, you're in the hot seat now. Talk about how it went since the last time we met. And then if do you want to change things up? How can we help? Like, you have the floor right now. So yeah, we have the bi-weekly meetings, weekly meetings. We have Wednesdays, which is like WIN days, where you just focus on what were the wins of the week so far. And I feel like that's really important too, because we live in a distracted world. We live in a world where sometimes your good enough isn't enough. So even if you getting up to wash your tail for the day, that's a win, and you should acknowledge that, and you should get some praise for that, so you can train your mind to keep going that way. And then we do meditation Thursdays, and yeah, that's it so far. I'm looking to incorporate some more workshops into the group, but yeah, we just have a couple of things in place to keep the girls on track.
Nice. So you mentioned everyone sharing their goals a couple of times a week, like you guys are going around in hot seats and stuff like that. There is, and this might be my side of TikTok, but there's this idea where you're not supposed to share your goals until you've completed your goals. What is your thoughts on that? Because your group kind of flips it, where you're like sharing your goal and you're making sure that everyone knows it. So why do you think people hesitate to share their goals? And what do you think the benefit of sharing the goals in the Fulfilled Her is?
So I've heard that too, and I agree with it to a certain capacity.
Okay.
I feel like that came about because of the notion of monitoring spirits, of like, don't share your goals because people might take it or they might hate on you. And I do feel like that's the thing, but what's meant for you can't be stopped for you just because a couple of haters,
Mm-hmm.
But there's also science of why you shouldn't share your goals, because you get that feeling of accomplishment even though you didn't do anything. You just talk, especially if you are talking to a supportive person, and everybody wants a supportive person in their life when they're talking about their goals, but it can actually kind of backfire, because if you're talking to somebody like, yeah, girl, you can go ahead and do that, I can see you doing that, your brain is like, yeah, we did that. It's like, girl, you ain't do nothing but call your homegirl to, tell her what you wanted to do. So even though you mean well, it can backfire, especially if you don't have like a strong internal like motivation gauge. It can kind of backfire. But I feel like when you share your goals with structure, you can get the benefits of it. So the girls aren't in the group, every day talking about, hey girl, I'm gonna do this, and then we're like, yeah, go ahead and do it. There's structure. So if you're sharing a goal, you also have to talk about the action steps with that goal. If you're talking about the goal, you also need to reflect on, okay, you said you were going to do this week and you didn't do it. So now you need to reflect on that goal. So you're not just getting that, that you're getting the dopamine, but it's not like cheap dopamine. You have to kind of work for it in a sense. Yeah, yes. And it's long lasting, it's going to stay because you had to do that work and use your brain. So yeah, it's structured. It's even when we have our bi-weekly meetings and they're talking about the goals, since I understand how important action steps is and also like watching how you communicate your goals, I'm usually on it. So it's like, okay, when you say, like, for example, one of the girls wanted to start taking her vitamins more, like in the morning, being consistent with that. I'm like, okay, but we can't stop there because if your goal is just, all right, I'm going to take my vitamins more, what does that look like? So if you know you're a person who is not consistent with taking your vitamins and reality has shown you the evidence that you're not consistent with taking your vitamins, how can you switch that around? Does that mean you putting your vitamins in the bathroom with you so when you go in to brush your teeth you can also take the vitamins, you know what I mean, like strategically placing them? So like what does that look like? You can't just say it. So it helps. You're still able to share those goals, which I do think when you're in a community with people that have the best interest for you, it's helpful as well. It's okay to share those goals. It's just when you're out there throwing them to any old body that'll listen or putting it on the internet or telling them to people that they don't really care if you take action or not. That's when it gets dangerous.
Okay, yeah, no, that makes sense. So you kind of touched already, like your accountability community is based off of science. Like you have done a lot of research into this. Well, let me speak for myself actually, but some
Let's get into it.
you're right. Like I'm like this is kind of a read, but in well-being, I think that community is often overlooked. Like we'll focus on physical or emotional well-being, even financial well-being, making sure that those needs are met. But I think that community is often overlooked and something that's kind of put towards the back burner. Why do you think that we often forget how important community is, since it is something that is so important to our holistic well-being? So why do you think that is?
It's been constructed that way. Honestly, like I feel like the world that we live in, and maybe it's because of the pandemic, I can't pinpoint it 100%, but I feel like the world that we live in today has been structured for individualism, like independence. It's, you need to think about yourself because you can't help anybody else. You need to help yourself because we don't have enough money to help everybody. You don't have enough time because we're working 80 hours, 40 hours, 80 hours a week to survive. So I feel like it gets overlooked because everybody is just trying to survive. Really, we probably would be better off if if we did lean more on community. You know what I mean? Because just thinking about everything, I seen a video earlier and it was on TikTok. And he was talking about, the tariffs and how everything's about to get expensive and just all of the things. And he was saying, during this time, knock on your neighbor's door, invite them over for dinner or lasagna or something like that. And I was like, that's such a good idea because one, you're creating community, and with that community, y'all are helping each other. So if you're making lasagna this week, they don't have to cook. They get to save, their food. And then, maybe next week they'll cook something. So it's like y'all are helping each other so you don't have to spend so much money. You know what I mean? In that regard, in that sense. But it's like, yeah. And then also not having to do everything by yourself. This society has been like structured to think that you have to do everything by yourself. And like I said, I think it's set up like that for a reason, capitalism and whatnot. But that's a different story for a different day.
Agreed. Okay, so you are fully immersed in personal development. How do you maintain your own wellness or avoid burnout? Because you're filling everyone else's cup. How are you filling your own cup?
Well, I wasn't always like that. I definitely experienced being burnt out a few times in life. But one day I realized like you can't fill anybody else's cup if yours isn't filled. So I had to create space and systems for myself. Like people know I won't answer the phone if I don't have the capacity, to talk on the phone. I don't mind just going ghost and just being in the house and just, reviving myself. And my people understand that. So like communicating that to people. And then also, like I said, just having the systems in place. Okay, when I have high energy, I know I can do everything. Anything that's on that list, I don't care if it's like 2 things or 100 things, I'm going to be able to do it all. So I do it all. But there's times where I don't have the capacity to do all of those things. So what's most important? You know what I mean? What can I do that'll make me feel like I went ahead, I accomplished what I needed to do. I make sure that I put like my self-care stuff at the top of that list, especially when I'm feeling like the energy is like really low, which is usually like around that cycle time. Self-care, okay, priority. But then what steps can I take to make me feel like I've moved forward in, whatever the current goal may be. But yeah, just really just boundaries, systems for different energy levels, and also just knowing that it's okay. Like, because I used to feel bad anytime that I'd be like, okay, like I can't do the things that I want to do. Like, I want to go to the gym, but I'm just like, oh, I don't feel like. Just working on the shame behind that too has really helped me be like, hey, my body doesn't want to go to the gym today. I have an excuse to watch Girlfriends all day. I feel good. I'm going to do
There you go. There you go. There you go. I know that's right.
that.
You kind of mentioned having a supportive community that understands, hey, I need to take a step away and fill my cup. I think that's super important. How do you know, or what would be your thoughts on when do you know when you're in a supportive community? Like, how do you know when you found like your home?
You can feel it. Like, I know that that's probably cliche, but like you really can feel it. You could tell when you're talking to a person who really sees you, who feels you, who wants to understand you, who wants the best for you. Like it's almost as if like your body like relaxes a little bit. You know what I mean? Like if you're having that conversation with a person, but you could tell. You really just gotta. I don't know. Maybe it's an empath thing, or maybe it's just a pattern recognition thing. But like you pay attention to people, you could tell who really welcomes you in and who really is just like, okay,
Yeah, the vibes. You got to fill out the vibes.
yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
Know your vibes. Okay. I am an introvert. I fully am an introvert. I know this very much about myself. How would you say, like, what would be your recommendation for introverts looking to find a community? Again, just so everyone knows, I get tired from hanging out with people after like a day. I can hang out with
Feel that.
someone and then for the next 2, 3 weeks, I'm inside. Like that is the way
Mm-hmm.
that things go. I can pop out once a month. That's really all I have in me. But I know it's important for me to build community. I know for my well being, I need to have communities. So, what would your recommendation be for introverts that are kind of hesitant about building community? My thing is, at this point now, I feel like I'm giving you an entire walkthrough of my life. But my
Yes, I'm
thing
here
is,
for it.
I'm an introvert. So, like I said, I can pop out once a month. But if I'm trying to build community, it kind of looks bad that I only want to be out once a month and then I'll
Mm.
see you in like a couple of weeks type vibe. So I'm kind of hesitant when I'm building community. Like, do I need to only focus on building community with introverts? What would be your recommendation for me?
Okay, so I am similar, very
Okay.
similar. I don't need, I guess you could say loner at heart, so I don't really need to be around people too much. I'm cool with a little check-in text here and there, and make sure everything's fine, then we go on about our way. Okay, so I would say this in regards of like start online first, right? Find community online because there's less pressure. Everybody's far away from each other anyway, so you're not gonna have to like be around them all of the time. So start online to reduce the pressure, which will reduce the anxiety of feeling like you have to do it, or the feeling of feeling bad for not being able to or not wanting to be there around people all the time. And then just like once you build that up, that muscle of communicating with people online, you can just go to little stuff that you enjoy and, like baby steps. Go to places, communicate with a couple of people because you'll find your people. Like I wholeheartedly believe that you can find your people. No, it don't matter what type of person you are. They got a group of people for everything. It's just a matter of like exposing yourself to it, because you'll find a person that's like, hey girl, you want to go and get brunch? Y'all schedule it and y'all just get brunch once a month and y'all are happy, y'all are the best of friends, or you know what I mean? Like you're having a good time. So it's just starting small with exposing yourself with people. And hopefully that answers your question, because it's
That
like,
did. Yeah.
okay.
Just dip my toes in. We don't have to do too much. And the people
Yeah.
that rock with me gonna rock with me. And I don't need to put too much pressure on myself of trying to be an extrovert in a community when
Yeah.
I know I'm not, because that just really depletes me. And I can really only put on a mask of being an extrovert for maybe 30 minutes. And then after that, I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, Lord, today drained me. So, yeah.
And that's exactly what it feels like too.
Yeah.
Drained. Like this is great, but I'm gonna go back to the cave. I'll catch
Yeah.
y'all in about a week too.
I got to recoup. That took a lot out of me. Thank you. I appreciate your advice. I also want to talk about your expertise in mindset shifts and transformations.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it.
Amazing. Okay, so what advice would you give to someone who wants to make a big shift in their life?
Okay, y'all might
First,
not.
first, maybe explain to us what is like a mindset shift or identity transformation, and then
Okay.
how would we go about doing that?
Yeah, I like that because I kind of want to not demystify, but like kind of ground the idea of it a little bit, because when people hear like identity shift, they think like they're just going to wake up and be this different person and then boom. And it's like, no, it's essentially is yes, you're waking up as if you are that person you desire to be. So it's, what would she do? You know what I mean? If I desire to be this entrepreneur, if I was the entrepreneur right now, right, and I had the successful business, the CEO of whatever, whatever, what would my day to day look like? So you do that every day and you remind yourself to do that every day until next thing you know, you are on that path. You are living that life. I tell people reality is lagged. Right. So the things that we're experiencing right now are the thoughts and the feelings and everything that we had in the past. So we have this gap between where we desire to be and where we are now. So you have to constantly wake up. You know how the girls are like, Delulu is the Salulu.
Mm-hmm.
You have to, like, you can't just be like that in one area. You gotta be like, it's almost as if you gotta be like kind of gaslight reality in a sense. I
Yeah,
don't know
and
if you've
just
heard of that saying before, but like
I've never heard
this
of
is
it,
not,
but
like, this isn't
just kind of
happening. You know what I'm saying? The bank account
gaslight
isn't
yourself a little
negatives.
bit. Yeah, just
That's not my bank account,
that's
because
not that's
my bank
actually
account got
not real.
millions. Exactly. You have to do that every single day, because you're gonna constantly get tested. You're gonna constantly like be pulled back to that old frequency, and you have to just show up every single day like, no, I am fill in the blank here. So that's essentially what identity shifting is. And mindset is basically understanding like you're not your thoughts, right? So every single thought that we get, that doesn't mean that's who we are. This is just something for us to entertain, use to get to the next level, or reflect. So just shifting your mind into knowing like, okay, there's space between this thought and myself. How do I want to handle it? Okay, there's something I want to do. What systems can I put in place to do the things? Essentially, it's just working with your mind like every day instead of thinking that you are it. I would compare it to like a parent child type of dynamic in a
Okay.
sense, to kind of put space in between it, of like when you're having that thought, okay, well, why do I feel this way? Or, if there's a habit that you can't break, okay, let's sit down and evaluate it and put things into place to navigate, whatever the habit is. But that's essentially what those two are. And just knowing, also on this journey, just knowing like it is a journey. It's not a wake up and you're fixed. Like there's no such thing, because we're not broken. We're just learning how to
Yeah.
work with ourselves. That's all.
I love that you said that we're not broken. We are not broken.
Mm.
Thank you for
No.
highlighting that. How do you think that, or do you think that community can play a role in your mindset shift or your identity transformation?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because if you have like for for the worst, if you have people around you who don't believe in this identity that you're putting on and this person you're becoming, it can make it harder. Then on the flip side, if you have people that do believe in you, it can make it easier because you have people to remind you of that, like girl, like the affirmations. Like one of my friends, she's working to become a principal, and there's a gap between being a teacher and her becoming a principal. Naturally, she would feel those feelings of like, I don't know, can I do this? And then, okay, I see you as a principal already. So when you're feeling like, I don't know, can I do this? I'm going to remind you and encourage you that yes, you can. You're already it. You know what I mean? You're already putting in the work. You already have the ideas of what you would do when you're there. You're already it. So community is huge when it comes to doing shifts in your life. Highly recommend if find one for sure. You can join mine if you
Yes.
want.
Yeah,
Yeah.
period. Which is where I was going with it. I was like, that's my next question. So, for the fulfilled her, what do you see happening within the next 5 years? Like, what are you excited to create?
So I'm not gonna lie. When I first made it, it was my sister and I. We was in the trenches in my mom's basement working on the discords and the marketing and everything. I'm like, this is gonna be huge. We're gonna be all over the world. And like as we've only had it for like 4 months. So now I'm just like, I just want it to be impactful. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I would love more members, absolutely, because I want each individual person to have their own accountability partner within the accountability group. But outside of that, I just want it to be impactful. I want women to be able to reflect on it and be like, this was a great tool that I got to use to get me to here. I would love stories of like, shifting and the mindsets behind it. That's all I can ask for right now. Cuz I feel like if it's impactful, everything else will, work itself out. But having something impactful in this world is really really important. Like I need it to be useful, and that's my goal. Next 5 years, that's what I want to hear. This was great. It helped me out a lot. Da, 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 da. That would make my day.
Period. Okay, I feel like you just manifested it. Like you spoke it into existence, so that's what's
Yes,
going to happen.
absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay, so we spoke about the mindset shift and how community can play a supporting role in that process. What advice would you give to someone who wants to make a big shift in their life?
My advice would be, and I know y'all probably don't want to hear it, you just got to do it. Honestly, because life is literally just practice. You know what I mean? I don't know if anyone believes in reincarnation. I kind of do. I really don't know yet. But in my experience, I feel like this is probably my first time being here. So I'm learning all of this now, and I need to figure out how to do it. So you just go out and you practice whatever it is you want to do, whoever you want to become, you have to practice being that person and doing those things. The videos and the books, they're great, they're helpful, but then you have to practice those things. And it doesn't even have to be big steps, you know what I'm saying? It could be little baby steps, but the only way for your body, most importantly, but also your mind to get comfortable with being in the position that you desire to be in is if it has that exposure to it and that practice of it. So you just got to do it. Action steps.
Let's do it. Okay.
Hmm.
Thank you. I appreciate your advice. Where can people join your group or follow you? Give us your socials. Where can we follow you, stalk you, like be
So the Fulfilled Her is a private community on purpose because I really wanted to filter out people who aren't ready yet, you know? So it's a private Discord community. You can find the link on my TikTok, which is 1155 somewhere, and you can also find it on my Instagram, which is 1155 somewhere, and you can find it on my YouTube, which is the Fulfilled Her Project. I just changed it, so I had to remember. But yeah, join us. We will welcome you in with open arms. There is a little form you have to sign at the beginning, just so I can gauge where you at. But yeah, Come on in.
Yes. Okay. Well, thank you so much, Ty, for chatting with us about community and wellness and your amazing group. I feel like I'm in a community with you. So thank you so
Yes,
much
absolutely,
for
we are.
allowing me into your community. I'm so grateful for you. I'm grateful for our chat and I'm grateful for our listeners. Thank you guys so much for listening. Thank you for joining again, Ty. I
Of
appreciate it.
course. Thank you for having me. This was fun.
I'm glad that you liked it. I loved our chat. I had so much fun. But we will wrap this up. Thank you all so much for listening. With that being said, I hope that you have a good day and a good night, and I hope that you are well. Bye.